Whenever you do something, because like when it's coming out of insecurity and you're like, and I was just saying this earlier, I've got to write like more upbeat stuff, or this thing's hip, I should do that or whatever. You're always behind and it's not authentic. Your soul's not in it, you know?
Yeah.
The real risk is trusting what is coming through. When you're actually saying something and doing something that feels deeply personal, that's where the biggest risk is, for sure, to me, you know?
Hi, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. Settle in. This is a long one. I really liked this one, even more than I expected. And I hope you do too. I'm going to keep this tight and get to the episode with my friend Sam Burton as soon as possible. He is an artist. He's originally from Utah, and he now lives in my neighborhood in LA, which is how we met. And I thought about splitting this into two, but I would have been bummed if I was listening and I had to wait another week. So here it is, all in one piece. Listen to it at your leisure, over a couple drives or walks, or where do you listen? Here's my conversation with Sam. He's an incredible musician. I was blown away when I finally saw him live for the first time. I hope you go see him or catch him if you're in LA or when he's on tour. And he has a new album coming out, which we talk about a little bit at the end. And we get into a lot. He came over to my apartment a couple weeks ago and we drank tea and talked for a couple hours, and honestly could have kept going. He's deeply introspective and he's studied Jungian psychology, and he also reads tarot for himself and others, and we get into that and how he got into all of that and how it impacts his songwriting. And I do the thing I've been doing the last several episodes where I pulled a slew of our mutual friends who submitted questions. So you'll hear us answer those as well as a bunch of mine. We cover everything from criticism and processing external validation and how he spends his days. I am so happy you're here. Thank you so much for listening. If you're new here, hi, I'm Katie. This is my conversation with my friend Sam.
You know, it's crazy. When I do read cards to people get the same cards all the time. And then they'll get cards that like I'll never get or other people never get, but they'll get them like in a row.
Yeah.
Know, over and over. And that's always been something that's really like been kind of interesting to me.
Huh. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, and then somewhat recently you left a tarot card, or you dropped one at coffee.
Yeah.
And then our friend Tim texted me, and then I texted you, and then it was sitting up there for a while.
Yeah, what was it? The King of Swords or something?
I think so. And then when I texted you, I was like, that's got to mean something.
Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, is that for Tim, or was that for Katie, or was that for me, or was it all of us, you know? Maybe we all needed to see it, you know?
Yeah, or maybe for our coffee shop.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Tarot, or there's so many threads I want to pull with you, but I guess I kind of want to start with what's been on your mind lately. Like, what have you been learning or contemplating? I know you've been really busy.
Yeah. Lately, I feel like I've been trying to reconnect and kind of just ground back to center. And for me, a lot of my like path is aligned with my songwriting and my music. And so for me, it feels kind of spiritual. And when it's been interesting to get more into the music business because I've never been a part of it before. And there's just lots of distractions, you know, in it. It's always been something kind of no consequence to me, like, and it still is the same in general, I think. But in my writing, it didn't matter if I thought it was good or bad or whatever, you know. I just was kind of doing it as an explorative practice of my like soul, you know? Yeah. And so, you know, when ambitions are starting to become wrapped up in it and different things, different distractions and stuff, I find it's like a hall of mirrors a little bit. And I'm just trying to focus and reorient myself and just remember the reason that I'm doing it, because I do feel like I've kind of strayed a little bit from the path. I've just gotten a little, like psychically, I feel a bit lost or something.
Do you mean like all the different hats you have to wear is like, you're suddenly not just writing songs and playing songs, you're having to like, do interviews or think about the logistical business of things? Is that what you mean?
It's not that there are that many like external impositions on me, because there are not a lot of things that are like making demands on me or anything like that. But it's just this kind of perfectionist attitude that comes with inviting the public into your private like sphere. And I think music is meant to be shared. And so it's only somewhat private, but it's just opened things up to interactions that I'm just not used to having. And so I kind of like, I have to really stop myself from like walling up or wanting to quit or like, you know what I mean? And I'm not like, this isn't like self-pity or anything. It's just kind of learning how to balance it so that I can have a healthy creative life and not rely upon anything other than, what matters, the heart and friends and family, things like that, nature.
Well, I mean, you being aware of it sounds like that's like half I'm sure it's uncomfortable. Like awareness makes you, when you're aware, then you are in the discomfort of now. It's like, well, before you knew, then you were just living. But now that you're aware of it, like what things have you been doing to try to get yourself?
There's things I should be doing. I haven't been doing a lot, but I have like a daily practice where I just try to walk or write and do it in a way that's, try to drop down a little bit lower. And as for the awareness, that's kind of the interesting thing is like I'll go a long period of time without being aware of something like that, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. And then you remember. There's some verse in the Bible that talks about how like it's a process of remembering. I'm not Christian or anything, but I think that's a really beautiful thing because in life, I find that to be true. And I feel like in music, that's why a lot of the time I'm writing about returning to something, because you have to go out and explore, but then you have to get lost, but then I love this idea of like, you just realize, at a certain point, sometimes like, you're like, the tree is bare or something, and you have to go back and water it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or like, that's the hero's journey. It's like, you have to go away, or there's something else from, I think the Bible maybe, of like, you can't be a prophet in your hometown, or like you have to kind of go away and come back.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so frustrating for me to have to learn lessons again and again and have like things aren't cyclical, and to have to making mistakes uncomfortable, but making the same mistake twice is like excruciating,
Yeah.
And I think that the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, this is non-linear, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you get busy to be like, when you're moving so fast, it's hard to be able to do the things that I find it's hard for me to be able to, like, I know the kind of 4 things I need to do just to feel like baseline. Okay.
Yeah.
But then when you can't get those in, you have to just, I don't know. I've been talking about this with a friend recently, like, I can feel so overwhelmed and uncomfortable and bad. But if I just figure out, this sounds so simple, but if I get myself back to just a place of being calm, I can handle all of it. Like, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if I can't get myself into the place of feeling calm, then it's just this like storm of stress within all those things that like, I know I could eventually handle.
Yeah, totally. This psychologist I like to follow, she was talking about how one of her clients had a dream of like these birds that were flying around. They were kind of like distracting her. And every time a bird would land in the dream, she would tie a ribbon to one of their feet, and then the bird would fly away again. And so she was like, oh, these are your thoughts and you need to write them down. That's like tying the ribbon on it, And then she found that she would stop being afraid of her thoughts and terrorized by them every time she would write them down and use her thinking function to kind of like follow it down. And it also reminds me of this thing that when Bill Fay gave this interview about like writing songs, and he's such a peaceful looking man. He's kind of an older guy. And he was talking about how he just gets so much joy out of writing one and like quietly putting it away and having it. And it's just like when you break something down to something that is small and simple and look at it simply, it becomes like peaceful and it becomes beautiful,
Yeah.
But it's hard to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just requires a lot of slowing down,
Yeah, it does.
Those are both really beautiful metaphors.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about growing up in Salt Lake City.
Well, I'm not actually from Salt Lake. I'm from, it's called Ogden City. It's like a little north of Salt Lake, but I grew up there. I moved from Ogden to this place called Far West, Utah, which is like a really small town. And then even within Far West, we were kind of like off so I mean, it really is just like a truck stop kind of town. I was probably, I don't know, like 10 at the time or something like that. I was pretty young. So yeah, we ended up over there. And, I mean, it was a wild, time growing up there.
Do you have siblings?
Not by blood. Well, that I know of. I might have half siblings. My dad may have had, more kids. He ended up going back to Palestine. And then he actually had to flee because of the conflict. And then he went to, Egypt, but I'm not in touch with him anymore. It's a long story, but he's out there somewhere. And, I don't know. Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
So when you were 10, so he was in your life until you were 10?
Peripherally.
Okay.
I think he was a really good guy. He had a lot of cultural shock being here. I think it was hard for him to adapt. And my mom was really, really young. And I think they just had a very chaotic relationship,
What brought him to Salt Lake City?
Weber State University.
Okay.
He went to college there.
And then he met your mom?
Yeah, she was working at this Chinese restaurant in Ogden. And they both worked there.
Oh, cool.
So they met. Yeah.
Wow. So then you're 10, you move to this small town, and you're with Russ and your mom. And then that's where I read that after school, in the same piece, I think, you discovered this old guitar and taught yourself to play in secret in the hours between finishing school and your parents getting home. Was that there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was there.
So tell me about those hours. I'm curious what you were doing in them before you found the guitar.
Oh, before?
Yeah.
Well, my parents were like extremely strict, and I had so much housework to do before I got home, before they got home. So I would get home and then go into like Cinderella mode, basically, and just like, clean all the dishes and do all the
birds.
I did have 3. This is funny. I actually had 3 parrots because my mom started fostering parrots. So we had a rotation of like insane birds that were in the house all the time.
That's so funny that I made that. You really are Cinderella. Do you have a fairy godmother in there too?
I feel like I did. But yeah, so these birds were insane, and they would come from bad homes. And so they would be screaming like obscenities from like the home that they came from, or like cackling or singing or whatever, they were really funny. And they were like abused birds. So they were like throwing their food all the time and like upset. And so the house would just be destroyed when I would get home from school, like bird stuff everywhere, so many dishes. Like it was just insane. And so it really took me hours to clean it every day,
Wow. This is really Cinderella.
So I had to do that. So that's what I would do. I'd usually eat a bowl of cereal, and I'd start cleaning, and then I'd finish around 4 or 5. They would get home around 6. I'd try to get out of there before they got home. So unless I was grounded. And so I'd leave a note. I'd leave like a yellow sticky note, and I'd say where I would be, and I'd try to be gone as much as possible. We were in lots of like open land, and I could really like go walk and explore and like find all types of things. I found like abandoned barns and all types of like fun things to play. And I knew a lot of neighborhood kids that we would like, catch crawdads and stuff and do like fun things. And
did you feel like you had good friends there?
I did. Yeah, I definitely did. And some of them I still have, to this day.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
But we're not as close, but it's still, I love them anyway.
Yeah. Did you have step siblings, or were you the only kid in the house there?
On and off. They would kind of like come in and out. My mom got married a lot. Sometimes step siblings would be staying with us, and sometimes they would be older and then they would move out, or sometimes they would go back and stay with their other parents or something like that. But I typically always liked them. And the ones I had the longest time were named Damien and Dustin. They both went on to be Marines, which is crazy, you know, but like we were very different, but I really did like them a lot. I really did have like a rotating cast of step siblings that were always in there, but I was my mom's only son. So in that sense, and then for some years of my life, it was just my mom and I living together. So, sometimes, but it felt like her and I, you know, but usually there were other people around.
Is she from Salt Lake City?
Yeah, she's from Ogden. She's born in Ogden.
What about the landscape there? Like, it sounds like you had a decent amount of nature around where you live. Do you think that informed you?
It's tough to say. I don't like necessarily resonate with like mountains, like, you know, some people do. I resonate more with like green, verdant fields and ocean and rivers and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I was vibing with California a lot, like when I came here, and that had a huge influence on my music and my writing, but not so much Utah.
Growing up in Utah, did you always know that you wanted to leave, and did you know where you wanted to go? When was the first time you came to LA?
I didn't always know. I guess it sounded kind of like wild to me to leave it, you know? I guess I knew when I was dating somebody, I was 25 or 26 or something. And, she was like, what would you be doing if we weren't dating? And I was like, I would move. And it just like came to me, you know? And she's like, well, then you should move. And I didn't even know where I was going to go. And so I was like, okay, I will. And then with the next month I moved. And
she didn't want to move too.
She didn't. No, she was a business owner and she like owned a house and stuff. And she just was like not ready to like uproot, but I think she was open to doing that later. And so I kind of just like, I had been on tour and I'd been to Los Angeles and I really liked it. And I was surprised because, you know, I heard all these bad things about it, but I really loved it. And I was thinking about moving with a friend to the East Coast. And I was like, you know, that would just be easy to like move with a friend. And so I moved here not knowing anybody. And I'm glad I did because I you know, I consider it a home now too, for sure.
Now you know everybody.
Yeah.
Did you start in this neighborhood?
Basically I was sleeping in a car for a little while and then I got a sublet, through this like acquaintance. And then I met Leah at, like a lunch party that I went to from the acquaintance. And then within like 5 minutes of talking, she was like, I've got a room. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't believe it because like all these ones kept falling through. And I was like, really? You know? And it ended up being great, you know? So very grateful.
She's been a guest of this podcast. We share.
Oh, she has?
Yeah. We share that, We've used that same bathroom upstairs. We share that. I was going to say we shared a room, but I don't think we ever did.
You never stayed in the, like cubby space or
downstairs basement? Yeah. No, Sophie was in there.
Oh, okay.
Spent a lot of time in all the rooms though.
Right.
Yeah. It's a special place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I love it.
And Leah's so special.
Oh yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah. We'll hear from her later in this program.
Yeah. Oh, really? Cool.
So you've been here for what, several years now, and how has moving to California informed you just in general creatively? And
I think when I first moved here, it was so inspiring to see so many people that had dedicated their lives to music, and even beyond that, just like a creative path. They found a way to like make a living off of it. That was really wild to me. I'd never seen that before. And so I was just in awe. And I played music, but I didn't do it that much. And I didn't, like, you couldn't really even hear me when I sang when I moved out here. Like I was whispering, and I told myself I wasn't going to move here from music, that I would just try to be a fan of it again, you know? So I went to people's shows and I just tried to meet people, and I got really, really inspired by everybody playing. And then I started kind of practicing in private. And then as time went on, what influenced me more was the natural landscape of it. Like, especially in Northern California, I'd go up north and stay on this farm. And yeah, I really like connected to it and fell in love with it. And yeah.
So you move here, you don't know anybody. You have the one acquaintance. Then you meet Leah, which is a great first person to meet.
Yeah.
And then now you have a whole community of friends here. So did that just build over time and you started playing music more and more too?
I was working at Collage on York, the coffee shop, and it's like, it's so intimate, as you know. So when people walk in there, they're like, you're just like with them alone, you know? And so I was just trying to get to know everybody. And Phil, the guy that I thought kind of opened it, he was working there in the beginning, and his attitude really impressed me. Like, he was really, really open with people. He was really welcoming to everybody. He did everything he did with a lot of integrity. And, you know, I was kind of like a slacker idiot, you know, like from growing up, and I was like, oh, I like the way that this guy handles himself, you know? And I even remember like saying something negative about something, or even thinking it or whatever. But I remember this moment where he was like, it was about somebody or something. And he was like, he said like, what would you rather them do? Like fail, you know? And I was like, oh my God. Like, yeah, they just put it, for some reason that like just made everything click.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to support everybody, you know? It was kind of like idealistic. I was just filled with a lot of hope and joy. And so I was, just trying to get to know everyone and support them, and feel like I wanted to develop a community. Everybody would feel like really welcome and connect. So I met tons of people that way, you know?
Do you feel like you did that? Do you feel like that's happened?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and then then life changes, you know, but I definitely feel connected to, there are core people here that I definitely feel like are like home to me in the neighborhood. I see them around. I'm like, oh, you know, and, I guess like perfection bubbles burst, people move on, things happen.
Yeah.
Life isn't so connected as you want it to be. It gets more complicated, but I like that too, you know? So,
yeah. I guess we share the same places and a lot of the same people. And I feel that too. It's like, it is really great. And working at the shop, I've met so many people, and it's just nice to have like, I live by myself. I work mostly by myself. Have the familiar strangers of like the people that I see walking around, and we smile at each other. Like that sounds like nothing, but I think is actually filling me up in a way I'm not even aware of. And then of course, like, you know, it's not a perfect movie at all times, but the people that we all know and love here, it's like, I'm happy that we both ended up here.
Absolutely. Me too.
Well, okay. Going back before here, I want to go back to you finding that guitars.
It was my stepdad's. And I think I was always just really like awestruck by the guitar. It like had this kind of like archetypal like power thing that I would feel when I'd look at it when I was little. And I was really in awe of it. It felt like an impossible thing to like interact with, you know, like it felt really overwhelming to me. And so when I found it, I was just snooping in his closet for some reason, but I was just snooping around and I found it, and I told him, I was like, I snooped around and I found this guitar. I was like, could I play it? And he said no. So that's why I snuck it. And, you know, he'd never played it because, you know, it was like, it was there, you know, hidden away. I'd never seen it before. So I would sneak it out and play it. And then finally I just came clean to him, and I was like, I've been doing this. And he actually had some respect for it because I'd never like committed myself to learning anything with any kind of discipline. And so they ended up getting me a guitar. And so,
first of all, I'm kind of just like, why would he have ever said no? But then part of me is like, do you think that the forbidden fruit of the guitar being not allowed, and you said that you hadn't, you know, had that completion to do something, do you think that maybe contributed to you?
That would be the case with a lot of things in my life, but no, I felt like it was really like the bond I felt with the guitar and the fascination I had with it, and how quickly the songwriting started coming as soon as I started playing it. I definitely think it would have happened no matter what.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that he said no. I mean, he's just an asshole, you know?
Russ.
Yeah, Russ.
So.
Sorry.
Well, thank you. I mean, this is brought to us by Russ because this guitar.
Yeah.
For the forbidden fruit. So you're writing songs right away. So you're playing guitar. And then, you know, when you were dating that person, you figure out that you want to move. Was it something that you were thinking that you would pursue when you got here?
In a way, yeah. But I mean, I just was like, that thought just like really, I don't know. Like, I'm from this small town. I kind of sucked at playing music too, a little bit, you know? And so the idea of like pursuing it in any kind of like way that would have like weight in my life, I don't know, that's a weird way of putting it, but whatever. I didn't think, I was like, there's no way, you know, but I just want to be a witness to what's going on. I want to get inspired by it. And I was really trying to just take it one step at a time. And I don't think I had high hopes or anything because of where I was at, I had so far to come. So I still have that kind of like imposter syndrome thing, you know, but I was thinking about it in terms of like, I still wanted to develop my songwriting and stuff, you know, being here and deepen it. But I didn't think anybody would give a damn about it, you know, like at all. You know, it was crazy that anybody did. It's just still, not that many people do. It's just like, you know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people do. And honestly, more should, because you're really, really good. When I came to see you, that I'd never seen you play music. I think I told you this, but when I came that night a couple months ago now, I guess. And
DG?
Yeah, you did this residency and I was just like, oh my God, it sounded so good. You were so good. Like the whole thing was like, it really hit me hard. Like,
wow,
you're so talented. And I was like, who knew? I mean, I guess I did know. And I think but I was just like blown away. I mean,
wow, thanks.
And it makes hearing the story cooler that I've seen, you know, the ending or the beginning, the beginning, but more people should like,
Thank you.
I also admire your humble. I think a lot about non-attachment and, you know, there are people who are like, it has to be this, it has to be this way. Growing up, like want to be a musician and are expanded enough to believe that that's in the realm of possibility for them. And there are some people that like you that just aren't expanded to believe that that's something that they could even do. Do you think that your non-attachment is, I mean, it probably creates a lot of imposter syndrome for you a bit, but do you think it also contributes to your grit and your like wanting to continue and the success that you've had?
When I was not attached, I had like beginner's mind, you know, and that's a part of what I'm kind of talking about wanting to get back to. I think that's a really good place to be. And then since then, I've probably collected a few like attachments and expectations and things like that I'm really just trying to like purge, because I think like entitlement, and that's like pretty like a polarizing word. That's a harsh way of putting it, but like, I just feel like you can't really expect anything from people, you know, and it will make you bitter. And I've gotten bitter at times, you know, like people get, you know, I just feel like when you notice that it's time to go back to the center, and we're all on our own little path and it's going to happen. And I think we definitely have a part to play in it. And I think the more open and loving and welcoming we can be to the unknown and the mystery of life and cultivating it, I think the artists are at their best when they cultivate the mystery and risk of their pursuit of like their inner world, you know, and to be brave about saying something that's true to them. Part of like when I moved here, there was this really liberating moment where I was like, oh my God, everybody's really, really good. Coming from where I come from, no disrespect to anybody there because I love them, but no one's like on this professional level. And so when I would see a professional sounding band, I would be like, oh wow, this is really amazing. And then I quickly became kind of desensitized to like people sounding really amazing. I was like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's like if they're taking a risk or if they're saying something that I can really connect to. And so I was like, oh, that's what I've got to try to do, you know? And not that I did, because I never really felt like I got that deep in any work that I've done, but that was my compass, you know? And that finding the compass was like, wow, that's what it's all about, you know? And I'm trying to get brave enough to go back to that being my compass again. It's easy to lose.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, like, of course, non-attachment, like, it's great. Everybody wants that. Yeah. Wonderful. It's getting to it and then staying in it because it's so easy to, like, things get stickier the closer you get to them. And so I feel like it's kind of circled back to where you were beginning. Like I understand more what you were saying at the beginning of like the stakes get higher the further you get. And so, yeah, I can imagine that being really tough.
Totally.
And I think what you said about expectations is like kind of hitting me hard, because I think that applies to everything, like regardless of whether it's, you know, with music or pursuing a work thing or a life thing or like romantically or whatever, like friendship, like anytime I have an expectation, it's a disaster. Like we should, and just not having any sort of expectations is great, because then you're surprised and that's lovely, you know, and you're not disappointed, which is also good, you know?
Totally.
Actually, this is something I wanted to talk to you about with your music, of one of your tracks that I read about, and it's I Am No Moon. And you said about it, the inevitability of change, how we must make a choice when we are confronted by it. We cannot remain in reflection. And I really loved that, and kind of talking about change and learning. And I thought that was a really concise and poetic way to talk about something that I find so much discomfort in, which is lingering in indecision. Is that sort of what you meant by that? It's one of my least favorite places to linger. So is that a correct reading of that sentiment?
Yeah, it's like every time you make a choice, it's like that you kill off a lot of other potentials, you know? But if you don't trim any vines, you won't have sweet grapes, you know? So you've got to do it. And sometimes you're doing it for the best interest of everybody involved, but it's still like really hard or heartbreaking to do. And so it's like this bittersweet thing. And that's kind of, I felt like that song was like this bittersweet thing, you know? Yeah.
Do you know that, I think it might be Anne Lamott. Have you ever read her?
Mm-mm.
I think you'd really like her, but it might not be. But actually, I'm going to send you this book, because it's called, I think it's called Bird by Bird. Do you know that book?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I think you'd really like it. I feel like we have this
bird thing.
Yeah, bird theme today. But the title it's a book about writing, but the title comes from how like writing something can feel so overwhelming. And she always thinks about her brother was like doing a project that he left to the end of like when it was due. And he had to write something about, I forget how many, but like every type of bird in the state. And, and he was meant to do it over the course of like the year, but he was like young, and she was like trying to help him. And she just goes, bird by bird. And that's where the title comes from. But anyway, there's this part in it where I think this could not even be from this book, and I just brought that up for no reason, but I'm pretty sure it is Anne Lamott. But she says, have you heard kill your darlings? Like in writing, like you have, when you're editing, you have to I thought that was so good, but then you take it away, and it probably wasn't, but in life, it's like that sort of editing is like involves other people killing the darlings of other ways that something could have gone. And
when I try to write something, I try not to I always want to try to not indulge in something too much. Everybody has their own little things that they edit, but it's like this, I like the idea that you have this like kind of elusive, hard to define ideal that you're like kind of like trying to shed some light on, you know? And yeah, that you just and you're not precious about it, about the work that you do. Especially for me, like I tend to write like a lot of songs, and then I don't do anything with most of them. And then I just try to use the ones that I end up thinking will work or something, you know? Yeah. But I think it's good. You don't want to be constipated about your writing process, you know?
Let it out.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's George Harrison did that. Like after the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
You've probably read this, but what was that? The album he made?
All Things Must Pass.
Yeah. It was like a double album anyway. But I think he's talked about this, because I always think about it because he talks about poop, and he uses the phrase let it out. So I always think about it. But I think he had written like double as many songs. Somebody asked him about it, like, why is it a double album? And he was like, look, man, like I didn't really write much, you know, in the Beatles, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. So I had stuff building for years, and I just got to let it out. And that's when he says that. But I think it's something like, I don't know, it's someone like taking a ton of pictures, or like what I do here is like, these are very long, and then I can edit it down or keep it, or like, it's better probably to have more to work with than less.
Totally.
Makes the fixing things in post a little bit longer, but go back to like what you meant about you don't like to, like, do you mean being a bit more, not vague, but like not being so on the nose with something and letting people make their own interpretation? Is that what you meant?
Oh, like with indulging?
Yeah. Not indulging in something too much.
That's a really hard thing for me to define, actually, what I mean by that. I don't mean necessarily to leave something intentionally vague. It's like that something, like, have you ever had this happen where you like have something that you live by, but you don't actually know how to talk about it? You know what I mean? Have you ever had that? Kind of,
but say more if you can.
It's like,
I'm interested.
Yeah. It's like, for me with like writing songs, there's like, they like appear to me like little totems in my head, and they're like guides on what to do. And I do kind of try to keep those a little bit vague, because they're more powerful that way and they can direct me. And indulgence, that's so subjective, like what someone would consider it to be. And I feel like it would come off maybe the wrong way if I talked about what I thought it was and what I try to avoid, but it's not necessarily to keep my work vague or anything like that, because I don't want it to be necessarily vague. But I do want it to like maintain its own sense of mystery and whatever, I don't like when people write stories or movies or whatever, and they say like the moral of the story is this, I do like when any kind of person that makes something trusts the audience to contemplate it, even if it doesn't feel safe to do that. That's why I love dreams too, like thinking about them and feeling them.
You seem pretty visual. I mean, obviously you're a musician, but it seems like you see a lot of this in your mind. Is that correct? Like,
yeah.
Do you have any like synesthesia tendencies, or like, do you see patterns in that way?
I don't think so. I think I'm what you'd call introverted sensing. So, people that are externally visual, they'd probably be extroverted sensing, and I won't notice a lot about the world around me, but I'll look a lot at the images of my inner world, Yeah.
Do you know your Myers-Briggs letters?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to guess?
Do
you know them?
Well, I'm wondering. Oh, gosh. I feel like we might be exact opposites.
Really?
Yeah. I really, really identify with Myers-Briggs more than like most other systems, because my mom worked in HR and she gave me my first Myers-Briggs test when I was 9.
Yeah.
So I know your I.
Uh-huh.
And I know your S.
No.
Sensing? You're not.
No.
Wait, is that even a 1?
S is 1, yeah. For sure. But no, I'm N.
So you're IN F?
Yeah.
Oh, we're more alike than I thought,
yeah.
Sam.
We're probably the same, yeah.
I'm ENFP. INFP.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way my mom describes it, at least, is always where however you want to look at it, because it's like a spectrum, right?
Uh-huh.
Where the least extroverted of the extroverts or the most introverted of the introverts. Okay. So we're like right in the middle. So basically for us to feel okay, we need like pretty much like equal time alone and equal time with others.
Oh yeah, that sounds right.
Same.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I've taken, like online things, like the I and E can vacillate for me a little bit.
Yeah, same.
But the other one's always the same.
Right.
You too?
From what I've read, like psychologically, this work tends to be really, like, say your sensing function is low, right? If you are like a painter, a lot of painters have low sensing, actually. And they, when they work with the images of their mind, or even when they're like looking at something, the unconscious, because that function isn't totally solidified, it has cracks in it. And so the unconscious gets into that function a lot easier than it would if you were using like a very powerful function, And so a lot of artists, like when they work with their inferior function, a lot of spiritual growth comes with that. So, especially like when you're into your later life. So like a lot of people that were like super high sensing will start to use their feeling function as they become elderly, or like if they're high thinking, they'll start to use their feeling function when they're in their older years and stuff. And they use it in ways that's private and kind of contained and somewhat unconscious. It's not like they do it in the external world. They do it in a private artistic practice. A lot of older people paint, things like that. And so it's really interesting because you move into the different functions as you get older, but you do it in a way that is kind of in private or something like that,
Do you think that happens for the I and E too, the introverted and extroverted?
Yeah, that's a good question. I bet it does. And I've heard that like from the Jungian stuff that I've read, it tends that concept is more like elusive to me. It feels like we talk about it today in terms of like how you get energy from people or not, or, whatever. And then from this one essay thing that I was reading, it was kind of like introverted people, they have psychic energy like directed at them. They're like receiving it from objects that they like have projections into, and then they're receiving that psychic energy back into them. And so it can be oppressive or it can give them a lot of energy. And then extroverts like hold these projections and throw them out at people and then chase the thing that they're putting the projection into. And so it has to do, at least from what I read with this Jungian way that I look at psychology in, is it's like the direction of psychic energy and the symbols and how you interact with the symbols that you put the energy into. And so I don't really know how people look at it today, or even if that's like the way the Jungians totally look at it or not. I'm not really sure. I've only read a little bit about it, but I definitely think that I'm introverted in that way. And I don't know if that would change unless I were to become conscious of it somehow in a way that I am like manipulating it, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So
no, I mean, that's like riveting actually. So I love talking about this stuff with you. And I know when you told me about tarot that you read tarot from a Jungian perspective, how did you get into psychology, and have you always been fascinated by all this stuff? Because you speak about it with so much. This is like my favorite kind of thing to talk to you about.
Oh, great. Yeah. No, I wasn't always interested in it at all. I had no idea until my ex was seeing a Jungian therapist, and the therapist gave her a book called Lectures on Typology by Marie-Louise von Franz, which was just a couple lectures about typology is like the Myers-Briggs.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that Jung invented the idea of typology. And so he broke up the human behaviors into basically the personality structure into those things. And his whole thing was like, where the personality is undeveloped, the unconscious, which is something more archetypal and collective, it leaks through those cracks when those functions are happening. So even reading something like someone who has a low developed thinking function, if they're trying to think, like if you're asking them for directions or like how to problem solve, they like lash out in anger or something like that. They like lose it. They basically become infantile, when they're using the function, when they're forced to use it. So that was fascinating. But anyway, so that was the first thing. And then there was another lecture in there by James Hillman, and it was on typology as well. Anyway, I read that. I was like blown away. And then she told her therapist I was so into it that she started giving me books. And so she was taking home these books and she wasn't reading them, and I was reading them and then giving them back. And then she was really interested in it. So we would get to talk about it. And then I started doing my own research on it. And it kind of just naturally led me to the tarot. And when I found by accident Hodorowski's book on the tarot, it was very like hand in hand with this other kind of like Jungian and metaphysical stuff that I was reading. And he seemed to be on the total like same page. And so he basically described tarot as a map of the soul. And basically what that means is that there are archetypal patterns that exist, and that they are a map of something that happens in human behavior. So like, the hero's journey would be like an archetype, right? And so it would exist. And the tarot, he says that the deck of Marseille, like the oldest deck that we know about, is kind of like a total, he almost talks about it like it's objective, a reflection of like how the soul's nature works. And so that really fascinated.
That was not that long ago. How long have you been?
That was like, I guess now like 5 or 6 years ago or something like that,
wow.
when I kind of started getting into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just feel like you know so much. I mean, that's kind of the best like part, when you can find something that fascinates you and then like go super down wormholes. Like I relate to that a lot. And I think like we were both kind of saying before we started recording that we both have been there, and like, who knows, maybe it's our ENFP-ness or ENFP-ness or something, but that's fascinating. Well, there's a question, I'm going to skip to a question from the ending segment where I ask questions from your friends, because Nada's question, not a previous guest of this podcast that we love, she mentions tarot in her question. So she said, maybe ask him about his tarot practice and how it informs his creative work at all.
I think if I get stuck, I pull cards, or I pull cards a lot, and I have projected a lot of like psychic energy into them now too. And so when I see them, I can have like really emotional responses to them. And I don't think of them like divination, like fortune telling type of objects, but I think that they are like symbols of these archetypes that do exist within you. Those symbols have been amplified by so many different people that write about them. And so that they become to be these like mythic figures that are alive in a sense, because they contain so much. They have so many different sides and faces that sometimes, I'll see a card and, it'll be about like awakening or rebirth, or like, hearing the call, or like whatever. And, I'll have like this really like big reaction to it. I'm like, wow, it activates something, because it's poking around, and all of a sudden it's like, it finds something that like really needs to be looked at. And you have this big numinous response to that touch, that call that the card kind of facilitates. So that's how it informs my writing practice.
Well, I was thinking, like, when we were talking about decision making, like how do you make decisions? Do you ever use it within that? And are you a pretty decisive person?
No, it definitely depends on the decision. I'm definitely more heart-led than mind-led, even if it like doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, even if it's like, oh, you shouldn't go down that road again or whatever, like I might try to do it again, But then sometimes the mind steps in and it's like, no, you can't do that. But I tend to be heart-led with my decision-making process. And I have used tarot for sure to make decisions. I find it very useful for that. Not like a what will happen if I do this kind of way. It's more like you ask what will happen if I do this, and you see how you respond to it. And you're like, where you get disappointed or happy or whatever, you can tell like where your heart's sitting. And I think it's important to keep, like we were saying earlier, it's like success isn't linear. Sometimes you do need to go down the road multiple times. And that's not like a failure, because I think the reason that we're here, the hero's journey is only part of it. The other part of it, and there's so many parts of it, but is like developing your knowledge of the soul. And you can't do that without experiencing. And you can't go do that without going into the dark underbelly of things a little bit and seeing how far your trust can go and how much you can hold love without, like running away from it. There could be a self-destructive aspect to that, but I think that it's important to do something all the way through so that you know completely. And I find that when you do, like people that have like a type that they're attracted to or whatever, like I find that when they go through like the whole thing, they actually stop being attracted to that type. I think people do change, but it comes through like immense amounts of pressure and going through the process, Yeah, I'll make illogical decisions is basically what I'm saying.
The only way out is through, you know?
Totally.
And you have to kind of move through. And it like, I wish there was another way out that wasn't through, like, cause even though it's true, doesn't make it it's still annoying,
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
So you started giving readings to other people, which I've gotten to be the recipient of, which was so lovely. And I'm curious what that experience is like for you, like doing it for another person. Like, does that make you feel drained? Does that, like, how does that
No,
work?
I love it. And if I don't do it for a while, I kind of like miss doing it. I really like it. It's just like, I don't know. I never thought that I would be doing that, you know? And I definitely don't consider myself to be like a tarot card reader or anything like that, but like, it's definitely a practice that helps facilitate a lot of connection and a lot of like getting back to yourself. And so I love helping people with that. And I love like being a part of the process because I just find it like, it gives me a lot of energy and I find it really creatively fulfilling. However, if I do like a bunch in a row, I definitely get exhausted. So I guess it can be a little taxing to talk that much, you know?
And just be that present with someone else. Like, even though that's good, it just takes a lot of energy. I feel that way about this.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, totally. Like, we've never talked like this before.
I mean, this is lovely, but just like doing a podcast, it's like what I love about it is that we're both really present with each other and not doing another thing.
It's like the structure of the thing
totally
allows us to really like connect a lot more. Like, normally I would feel terrible about talking this much, you know? I would never do it. But you've invited me to do it, so I'm like, oh, well, this is nice to share, you know? It's nice to do that. Yeah, so tarot is very much like that. It like allows us to like cut through and talk about other things. And yeah, it you know, you connect with people in really wonderful ways and that you normally wouldn't connect with too. And then you see them and then you feel like you're really close. It's nice, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way about this. Like, I've had on really close friends of mine and I've had on strangers, and just the guise of like this piece of equipment being between us, I get to ask whatever I want and I get to like hear about, you know, if I just ran into you at the coffee shop, or, you know, I probably wouldn't have asked you a lot of the things that, whether it stays in or not, that we got to talk about today. And that is really lovely. Recording my voice for the internet, like, actually does make connection. And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Tarot's the same way.
It's so cool. And you've really contained the conversation so beautifully. And, I appreciate it. And you've been very generous to me, about it. So yeah, thank you.
Well, gosh, thank you. Well, did you, this person, when I had my second unplanned tarot reading, White Feather, did not have the same bedside manner as you. Like, he was very intense and direct, and you're so gentle and loving. And like, also I knew you a bit before too. So that was maybe part of it, but somebody told me that everything that he said was like really intense. And then somebody told me after that day, they were like, a tarot reading is a reflection of whatever energy you had that day. And it can change based on if your energy changes. That's what will come up in the cards. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Totally. I think tarot, can mirror the way that dreams function. Like, there are times where you have these dreams that they definitely are in line with what you did that day. I always think that something deeper is going on, and it takes that form, and it's like maybe something that day triggered something in the unconscious that's bringing you back to something, and it's trying to speak through that engagement. It's trying to tell you something. And I do think sometimes tarot works day to day like that. It's like, oh, here's this pattern, or here's this mood, or, you know, and every time there's a mood, there's like a door in it, you know, like you could walk through, you could explore this, you could get into this a little bit. And then when it passes, it can fade. And then there are other readings and there are other dreams that are more like deep and archetypal, that are like, it just feels bigger. They have more gravity. They're like big chapters of life or something. And sometimes those come out of nowhere. And they're more, fixed. They have that fixed presence about them. Same with the dream, where like almost the dream shocks you a little bit. So I think there's both, you know, and I do think it mirrors that kind of, that pattern, you know? Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about music. You have been on tour with so many artists. You have been on tour just in general and on your own, and played so many shows. Do you have any really memorable tours or shows, or like anything, like what makes it feel really good to you? And what does it feel like to you? Do you feel energized after, like what I was saying with tarot? Is it draining or is it energizing to you?
The first tour I went on was with this guy named Brent Colbert, and it was called The Awful Truth. And my best friends, basically at the time, we played in this little band and we went around. That was like my first tour. Unforgettable. The tour that I did with Sylvie was wild. You know, that was really, we were like partying the whole time. It was so crazy. We weren't partying when we got into the car accident, but that was a wild trip. And it was really memorable because a lot happened, like a lot of good, a lot of bad. Like it was like a really crazy tour.
It was long, right?
It was pretty long. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then right after that, I think I did kind of like my first runs of things, you know? So those were also memorable for me because it was like, oh, it's the first time I was like really testing my stuff out on the road. And that felt really special. The Wise Blood tour that I did, she wanted us to do it stripped down, no drums. And so I'm playing these pretty quiet, slow songs in these huge rooms. And it's just like Paris, amazing, connected so much. It was incredible. But then other places, it was just like, no way. You know, like the UK, it was terrible. The sound is bad. And it was just like, the sound needs to be like incredible for that style of music to work in a huge room like that, you know? So sometimes you can't win the crowd. That's okay. I also learned like I need to write songs that are like a little bit more varied, especially if I'm going to be playing a lot of shows solo because it costs a lot of money to bring people out on the road. I need to be able to not just play a bunch of quiet songs, or I need to maybe even say no to big gigs if the venue isn't going to be right for the style that I'm doing. So it's interesting. It's like sometimes what you think would be like the best thing isn't necessarily the best thing. And then smaller tours where I'm playing smaller clubs stripped down, it's like those are amazing. You know? So I really love touring. I love being on the road. I feel like I'm happiest when I'm on the move. I love meeting new people. I love playing. I love just seeing the world, you know, pass by and like being in new places all the time, exploring it. It gives you that sense of beginner's mind too when you're in like a new place all the time. It's definitely not for everybody, but I really feel like it's something I could do for the rest of my life for sure. I really love it. When there's a tour that's booked in a wild way where like you're making like 10-hour drives all the time, that can be grating as hell, you know? It's like, oh my God, it's so hard to do that and not like feel like you're just not human. You know what I mean? Like there's just no time to like eat good food. You're eating shitty food. That's the worst part about it, I think, is the food. When you can't eat healthy, nice, good food, I really like feel very nourished and happy when I can like eat well, you know?
Yeah.
And when you're eating chips and, you know, stupid things like that. And there's always a point in the tour where like you just kind of fall into the inevitable and then you kind of correct. But yeah, that's the hard part, I think.
You talked about in something that I read how you had some confidence early on before your musical ability was where it is now. Can you talk about that? I mean, where do you think some of that early on confidence came from? I
was making a joke kind of because there was a question in this interview that was like, what was it like playing your first show? And I was playing this open mic night and I said, well, it was, they were like, what do you remember about it? And I said, I remember my confidence was much higher than my ability was, you know, or something like that. I don't remember what I said, but anyway, that was just simply like a lack of awareness, you know, like I was like, oh, I'm singing and playing. Like I'm like, this is incredible. You know, it was like my identity. It was like, I was so enthralled by that. And then you have all these people that hear you play for the first time and they're like, yeah, good job, buddy. You know, like keep doing it, you know? So you just think you're really good or something. And then it's like, no, you're not. You got to put in the time. And, my confidence wavers in and out. Sometimes I feel really grounded in that. There's this thing like Rilke says, like in Letters to a Young Poet, you know, where he's like, one of the worst things you could do is to critique art. I don't even fully agree with that. I critique things all the time, but I do think it's from like a weaker place or something, you know? So sometimes I feel like I'm resting on something that has come from my well, and how could I criticize it? And pride's like the wrong word, but I'm happy and grateful to be able to like connect to that and play it. Like it's not criticizable, you know, it just is. And it's for someone out there. And I have the ability to do it. And then other days I want to give up. Like, and that happens all the time, especially lately. Like I've been having a harder time lately. And I'm so sensitive to like any criticism, you know, or like anything like that, where like, I'll just be like, oh, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? But I don't mean it, you know?
Yeah, no, I know.
But you want to run away sometimes, you know?
If someone gives me piece of positive feedback or positive validation, like even if it's not true, or like those people saying to you when you were first starting out, like, good job, man. Like that is more motivating to me than someone being like, you're not so good. Maybe do something else. Like, I'm not going to want to keep going. Even though it's maybe not true, but like we need I think everyone needs a little bit of delusion to like try, because it's really hard, you know?
Oh yeah, I agree. Like sometimes the criticism is great. It's just gotta be when you're asking for it, really, you know? And it's gotta be from somebody that you trust. Because I love the mentor, like student relationship idea. I really love that. And I have an older guy in my life who like I really respect and look up to a lot. I have two actually. And you know, they'll like totally tell me when, you know, they're like, this is weepy, this song, why are you singing breathy? Like whatever. And they've helped shape my sounds completely, you know, through their criticisms that were like blunt as hell. And sometimes they just make you aware of something that could change, or they like align something with your taste and they help you do that. But when it's coming out of nowhere, and it's especially from people that don't get it, what that does for me more than anything is like, because you don't necessarily always believe them, you know, but when they miss the mark, it makes me feel like alone, because this thing that you connect to so much, you hope other people will. And then when you have these reflections of people that don't understand, you're like, no one ever will. They'll only get this kind of thing that you feel alienated from, maybe, you know? And then you just feel alone and isolated and alienated. And so,
which is like the worst motivator, the opposite of a motivator.
Well, but it can also be the best one too, right? Because if you're like, oh, I feel alienated, and then you're stuck in that, and then you let yourself kind of hit bottom, you're like, well, what are the things that only I would say? Because fuck it, you know? Then I'll say them, you know, because who cares, right? And then your way out is because of that. And it's amazing. You have to go through like getting beat up a bit to realize that you really don't care, or like they help you get deeper to something that only you would say. Sometimes it's like when someone's criticizing you for something, I guess what I'm talking about is this idea of then like doubling down on what you're being criticized for and going deeper and deeper with it. You know, because you think about so many people that get criticized in the beginning for doing what their like signature thing is, you know, and then they become immune to any kind of criticism, and then they never change anymore either, you know? So it's definitely, I have this like dualitous, is that a word? But whatever, I have like a mixed perspective on it.
You have to find like a Goldilocks or it's not even finding a center with it. It's more like both are good, and both are good when they're true and they're honest. However, you have to kind of like what you're saying about tarot, like it's cool, but like it's intense. Like you have to kind of be ready to hear it, and you have to, and it also depends on the delivery too, but like, when that's kind of what I was saying in the newsletter where I wrote about you, but I was feeling really down. And I always think about this thing that someone said on here actually like years ago, but he was like, whenever you're feeling like, whenever you're depressed, basically, like it's better to outsource your perception of yourself is going to be really skewed when you're depressed, obviously. And so it's better to outsource it to someone who gives a shit about you. Like it doesn't even have to be someone who loves you, but like someone who cares at least a bit. And whatever they think of you it's also going to be skewed, because no one is accurate, right? But it's going to be closer to what's actually going on than what your depressed mind is saying. But I find like when I'm really in a low, the last thing I want to do is the thing that is useful, you know, and talk to someone in that way. And even if I do, it's just like, okay, well, you're just like, you know, it's very hard to like shift that in your brain. And so I think a lot of that feedback can come, it depends on where you're at to be able to receive it or be ready for it. Like you said, like it kind of has to be, everything's about timing.
100%. I mean, there's like so much transference with people where like they can, these interactions that we have when we're actually able to connect, And a lot of depression sometimes is like a lack of connection simply, you know? And von Franz talked about it like usually with depression, there is a big need not being met. Like it might be that like this sensitive person is secretly kind of like power hungry, tyrannical. And there's this huge need for power that they're repressing all the time. That's like caused them to hit this really big depression block. You know what I mean? And the transferences that we have with people can like cleanse us of those things, give us lots of psychic energy and things like that. And then you can also do it with dream images, you know, where you're like, you can devote yourself to a personal image that like means something more than what it is to you. And that's a really interesting thing because you can never obtain it, you know? So it really is, you're just spiritually devoted to it, you know? I think in either case, like, it's like you have to, deal with the devil there too of like, what is it that you really want beyond the symbol, the figure? Like, what is it that you really want and how can you cultivate it inside of yourself into some kind of practice that you're actually reckoning with it somehow? I feel like everybody should have a creative life because in some way a creative outlet, because it's just such a great way to deal with those demons, you know, like you can work with them a little bit.
Or have many like buckets you can pull from.
Yeah.
And then like what you're saying with the transference, I mean, I feel that so much and it can be unexpected of like kind of what I was saying too, of just getting out of just having a conversation with someone or like talking to someone. The only thing that gets me out of my head effectively is hearing about someone else being in their head, you know, and just like listening. And I think that's what you're saying of like, that's connection. And that's something else I wanted to ask you about your music, actually, of you play in bands and what have you learned about collaboration with other people? And it kind of ties in with some of this maybe.
It's just, and I'm not saying I do this, but I feel like it's like, you gotta be a good hang. Like you can't be too controlling. You can't like impose. You can't get too emotional or anything like that. Like I feel like you have to be there in service of whatever it is that you're working on and have just as high of a standard for it as you have for your own stuff. And so I wouldn't work with somebody who was like more like, if they don't have as high of a standard, I would feel like we're not compatible, you know? And I have worked with people like that and I'm like, no, I can't do it. Or like whatever, you know, it's like just different work processes, but because you want to just open as many doors as possible while maintaining this idea of like, or this standard of like, is that the best that it could be? And that's not like reaching for some external, like far away idea of perfection. It's like, what is this song? What is it trying to do? And how does it feel the most itself, you know? And just trying to make sure that everybody's playing on it to that standard. But I love collaborating. I really like being a side guy too, in people's bands. I've been playing in Haley, Lady Appletree's band, and her music's so good. And it's so fun, just like, you know, being the rhythm guitar harmony guy. Like I really enjoy that a lot.
You two together is like really special.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. You were just recording with her.
Yeah. She's working on her. I don't even know if it's like going to be an album or what, but yeah, she's doing some recordings right now.
And she sings with you sometimes too.
She does, yeah.
When I saw you,
yeah.
It was honestly, that show like really was so good. The sound was so good.
Thank you.
She was so good. Like,
yeah, she's amazing.
She really is.
We all met on that Sylvie tour and we all like just really bonded, probably like trauma bonded from the accident a little bit, you know? And then we've all just kind of stuck together. So we're like everybody's band, you know, they play with me, we play with her, you know, we would play, we were talking to a few other people about like being their band or whatever. And that's just like, I love that idea, you know, that it's just like everybody's just trying to support each other's thing. You know?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I shared about the accident in the newsletter and people can people still support the
Yeah, it's
GoFundMe?
Still up. I'll probably take it down soon because we're pretty close and I feel like I could probably like cover the rest, you know, but yeah, it's been, that was really moving posting that. Like it was, a lot of people came through and just like, I don't even know. It's just crazy. It was really moving to see that.
That's good. I'm so sorry that happened. And I can imagine how that would bond you all, having gone through something so horrific.
Oh, totally.
This week's episode is brought to you by Paleo Valley. Listen, Paleo Valley is incredible. They make these beef sticks that are 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. Many sticks on the market claim to be grass-fed, but they're not. They're eating grains and other things. But at Paleo Valley, they are sourced from small domestic farms in the US. They use real organic spices and flavors, very eclectic group of flavors that my friends are loving. It's incredible. They taste amazing. They are high in protein. And you know what? They're quick. They're on the go. They're quick. You can grab them. I can't believe that any of us have to feed ourselves a couple times a day and do everything else. So to have something on the go like this, honestly, it makes the world of difference. It really does. It's high in omega-3 fatty acids. Those are really good. It's protein rich, as we've discussed. And listen, they refuse to cut corners at Paleo Valley with all their products. They make several other things that I love. They have these bars that I really love that I eat on the go. And my friend Dexter loves these beef sticks so much. He's always asking me to bring him over more. He takes them to work. He has to be up very early. He goes to the gym and he eats these beef sticks all the time. I brought them to my friends at the coffee shop. My friend Ryden, who works at the shop with me, loves them, eats them. They're great and nutrient dense. And again, this company, listen to this, they're family owned. We love a family in this family, dare I say. Okay, so here's the thing. You can get a discount. I just want to tell you a couple other things. There's no MSG or hormones or, I'm just looking at all the incredible benefits. So head over to paleovalley.com/letitout for 15% off your order. That's paleovalley.com/letitout for 15% off your first order. Paleo Valley, they're great. So many products, including but not limited to beef sticks. Also, their vitamin C supplement I've been taking, and knock on wood, I'm not sick. And again, the bars, the beef sticks, have at it. This week's episode is also brought to you by another show that I actually really love. It's called Talk Easy. And here on Let It Out, I'm all about learning from the creators shaping our culture. And I want to know about their lives, from their inspirations to their fears and everything in between, as you know. And there's another podcast that we love that also takes a deep dive into the artists, activists, and writers that inspire us. It's called Talk Easy with Sam Fagoso. Talk Easy is a different kind of weekly interview show. Every Sunday, Sam invites a culture maker to come to the table and speak from the heart in ways that you've probably never heard from them before. Talk Easy has released over 300 episodes. Some of my favorites include the one with David Byrne, Natasha Lyonne, Sandra Cisneros, Ethan Hawke. I really loved that one. Ocean Vuong. If that sounds like an eclectic group of guests, it's because it is. It's driven by an inquisitiveness about who we are and who we become. Talk Easy is a place where people sound like people. Sit back, relax, and enjoy Talk Easy with Sam Fagoso, available wherever you get your podcasts. When I had our friend Kale on, who recommended you, we had this conversation about, and I actually talked about this with Nada a bit. This came up too because it was around the time her book was coming out, and she was talking about like how hard she worked on making sure people saw this thing that she made and worked really hard on. And I thought it was really good that she was so open and honest about that, and that is helpful, I think.
You mean kind of like the promotion aspect of things?
And like that it's part of it and important if you make something that we want it to be seen, if you're proud of it. And so I was talking to Kale a little bit about this too, of the concept of self-mythologizing, and we all sort of have to do it in different ways. And you are someone who is so genuine, and well, I mean, from what I see, or you're doing really good with your act. But that's the thing. Like, how aware are you of creating an image of yourself or self-mythologizing, and what are your thoughts on that as being part of the work?
I think the key thing, and I talk to a lot of people like this about this in tarot readings, because I talk to a lot of people that struggle with that, with the promotional side of things. I think most of us do. I like to think about it like it's performance. It's another creative endeavor. And that's the way that I should look at it. And that you can never identify with the like avatar thing that you're presenting. Whether you're, saying it's a myth or, a brand or whatever it is, you are not that thing. You're so much bigger and more complicated than that thing. And so when it's like, when you think about it, like in terms of like authenticity, I think it becomes a really overwhelming task that's almost like impossible to do. Like, I think people would disagree with me here, but to me, it seems like it can't really be authentic, It can be a kind of authenticity, maybe, but I think it becomes more authentic when you think about it as performance.
Yes. When it's honesty, at least. You're like calling a spade, not like.
Totally. It's like, David Bowie's not Ziggy Stardust, and David Bowie's not David Bowie either. And I think that all those artists like Dylan and Bowie and people that are able to like shape shift and do these things, they're totally aware of that. And they're not identifying with the characters that they make. They're just using them as like as a way to connect. And that's how I think about promotion,
Just being honest about it. And that, because we're all doing it, and I think, even just beyond living a creative life, like we all have these images that we're crafting of ourselves, which it's like very uncool to talk about, like this is like it's so much cooler to, and Nada said this in a way that I really admired, but we were talking about social media and we were talking about promoting the book and media and she was like, yeah, it is cooler to not have it and to not do it. But also that would be so silly because we have this thing that we can share, this thing I worked hard on, So, and I really I was like, yeah, it is cooler, but
in my view, there's just no structure that could help you if you didn't do it,
Yeah.
And like if you're going on tour or you're on a book tour, like whatever, and you're getting people that are like following you, trying to understand what's going on, there's no way to interact with them without doing it, Like, I just can't even imagine how artists were doing it before. Maybe there was better infrastructure, but I doubt it, And there's nothing even still, So it's like the idea of not doing it seems like total self-destruction to me, you know what I mean? And it's just trying to maintain a healthy relationship with it. That was one thing that I learned from Phil at the coffee shop. I was like, just support people trying to do their promoting. Like, let them do it. I'd rather see them happy than sad. And if you spend too much time on there, though, it can definitely make you bitter, and you can definitely get really annoyed with people that never stop doing it. That I feel like that's when you're too far in. You got to pull back.
Well, I find too, like, if my ratio of like consuming and contributing has to be okay, because if I am like essentially like backed up, like if I haven't written anything or made something I'm proud of or done anything that I feel like I've not contributed, but I've at least like tried and shared something, then I'm looking at other people trying and sharing their stuff and I'm like, oh, God, I'm the worst and they're great, but then if I've done my thing and shared my thing, then I look at everybody else and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you also did your thing, like then it's all where a mirror of just where I am, you know?
Yeah.
But you're right about like managing the validation and the reaction. I think that's really tough. My friend who I'm oddly like helping her with essentially this, like essentially book PR, but she has a really huge following on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere. And she completely took herself off of it. Like she doesn't do, she's like, well, it's silly for me. Like that's worth something. And she is a writer and a clinician. And that is, and she didn't grow up with it. She's like a decade older than us. But she, all of a sudden, like pretty quickly after writing a couple pieces in the New York Times, like got a really big following. And now her husband, she just told me this the other day, but whenever she has a new book coming out, whenever she posts about it, her husband is the one that does it. Like she doesn't have the password anymore. She's just like, and she was like, but it's funny because I find myself asking him, what's the number on that? And then she's like, wait, don't tell me. Like there's a higher part of myself that doesn't want to know. But I just thought it's so interesting how our brains like Isn't that wild?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How do you manage the validation and the reaction to your work?
I mean, I think I react to it like most people do. Like I love when it's a strong reaction, and I definitely would like judge maybe I'll feel insecure about like something that I shared if there's not as much of a reaction. But I try to keep this in mind that like it's so funny, like with creative people and their work when they share it, like it has nothing to do with the world, you know, like you don't even get that many opportunities to go share it other than like the release show or like whatever. So most of the reaction that you're judging it off of is this like social media thing that happens for a little while. It's like this huge dopamine hit or whatever. But it doesn't exist, you know? It's like, yeah, maybe people like double tapped it, but you don't know what's in their mind. You don't know, you just don't know anything. Maybe they shared it because they felt like they had to, like whatever. It's just like anything else, but it's just this thing that's like totally not real, but it has a lot of weight in it. And so it's a really hard thing to navigate. And I'm definitely like, you know, I fall prey to it all the time. It's a part of life now. I would love the idea of like getting to the point where you could phase it out, you know, like when you didn't, like if you could just have someone post on there for you and be on there anymore.
Like my friend's husband.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, you know?
Or we could just do it for each other. Mm-hmm. Like you could do mine and I'll do yours. And we won't talk. We won't tell each other.
Totally.
Or I'll just tell, it's great every time.
Yeah.
But then that's why we like that. It's designed to be inconsistent because inconsistency makes our brain.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's designed to like.
Keep you coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But beyond just like out of Instagram, like more broadly with validation and what we're talking about of how we handle the amount of dopamine that we're getting.
Yeah.
I'm going to also skip to the asking for a friend segment because this relates to our friend Jake's question.
Right.
He has a couple, but this one is the one that's related. So he says,
my boy,
as an artist with so much self-doubt and ridicule for your own work, do you trust
he knows me.
Do you trust the fans and people that love your music? I say Sam brings me to another world when I hear him play. Do you ever question that praise, or at the end of the day, are you proud and confident of what you make?
I think some people that are like really committed to like rejecting all praise or like whatever is definitely not a sign of humility. I almost think that's kind of like a reverse narcissism sometimes. Like I definitely am victim of that. And I will do a kind of narcissistic self-destruction sometimes. You know, it's like a defense mechanism type
like
of thing.
Self-deprecating, but beyond.
Yeah, exactly. And my friend, actually, like my older guy that I was telling you about, he'll call me out. He's like, you're in narcissist mode, you know? But humility is definitely something that I enjoy. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm like a humble person, but like I value that trait. But I also value when people are like, no fucks given, you know, I actually really value that too. It's like you need to know when to be humble and when to just be bold or something, you know? I definitely believe it when people tell me a compliment because, there are definitely people that would just blow smoke for sure. Mm. But I think for the most part, like someone's just giving you a compliment. I think the thing that like I grapple with in like, if we are talking about the doubt side of things, my mind, if I'm in that mode, it will go to like, well, I probably could never write another good song again, you know? Because I always feel like, and this links to, I don't know, the next question about what Jung was talking about.
Should we, let me reread that one in full for you. Okay. Jung says the artist is not a person endowed with free will who seeks his own ends, but one who allows art to realize its purpose through him. Do you believe in free will?
Okay, so just connecting with the previous question to that, I think because I feel so tentative or like insecure about it sometimes is because I do agree with that. You can't force the veil to lift, you know, like you have to kind of seduce it into lifting or something like that, you know, or it's like it's out of your hands. And so that feeling of almost like helplessness to it, to the muse or something, I don't know. You can always rely on craft, but like it's not as maybe strong of work. But anyway, so because of that feeling, sometimes if I'm given praise, I'm like, oh, I maybe could never do it again or something. Or I always feel like fundamentally insecure, you know? I've learned to trust it more as time's gone on, to the point where like, I won't write a song for a year, you know, and then I'll write like 30 at once, you know? I do believe in free will though. To me, I see it as kind of a mix of like spirit realizing itself, becoming conscious through you. And the other part of it is that the conscious mind through craft and taste is manipulating it. It is a reflection of like, you know, of your own critical mind as well. Cause like, you know, rock music and folk and whatever, it's not coming out of a vacuum. It's like stacked on top of history, you know, and it's got a crazy history. And, you know, we're on the backs of a lot of people, and, you know, it would be crazy to not acknowledge that that's part of the thing too, you know?
Do you think a person has a choice in anything, or do you think we are living as a servant to something else that has something to bring to others? And if that's the case, do you believe in predestination?
I think it's a mix personally. Like, I think it's like, I mean, we don't know, right? But, I think there are certain things that like you're called to do, you know? You have certain skills that you didn't ask for. That's not necessarily free will, you know, like it's a bit of fate there, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to pursue it. And you could do other things, you know? So I do think it's both. Like with the tarot, right? Like the tarot doesn't tell the future. It highlights something, and there's a doorway there, and you can walk through it, or you don't have to, you know? And everything has a higher and a lower polarity. And, it's complex. And in regard to choices, it's like, you may think you're not choosing something, and then you are choosing something, and you end up in the same place somehow or something. So predestination is something that totally exists, you know, because we psychically do that to ourselves all the time. You'll live out a pattern that you're not aware of all the time, and you'll end up right where you didn't want to be, or like maybe where you wanted to be, but I don't know. You live something out because you're unconscious.
What's like an example of that?
Oh, like becoming your father or something,
I see,
you know?
I see. Mm-hmm.
This is why it's art. I think art can be anything. It can be life, because it's an unconscious pattern. It's an unconscious force. It's then becoming conscious through you, right? So the example with the father would be like, you know, you reject your father and everything that he represents. And especially when you see it in other things, like the idea of like the father archetype inside of an institution or whatever, you reject all institutions, you reject the law, you reject order, whatever, you know, anything that like that archetype rules, whatever. Just using an example here. But then you become a tyrant about it, you know, in your quest to like get rid of it and be, you know, egalitarian or whatever. You end up being tyrannical as hell and noticing anybody's imperfection or anybody's, you know, tendency to lean to the right or whatever, you know. So then you end up being your father, but in like this reverse way, right? So, but then when you become conscious of the pattern, and in your life, you learn to love the things that you're supposed to hate or whatever. That's art. That's like living out art, you know?
And that's growth. That's that's personal growing. And I think what's that one quote of like, until the subconscious becomes conscious, we're like victims of these patterns.
Yes, totally.
But I think also when you were saying that, the other thing I was thinking about is like, you were saying like, okay, these talents we have, a friend of mine says, follow the dream that's also following you. Mm-hmm. But it's also kind of like the talents you don't have are also sort of indicative of like the way you're going to take something, you know, like at a certain point, it's like, well, I'm probably not going to be at this anymore at this point, or it's just not the way that I don't have an aptitude towards that or whatever. And then that also is directive.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely like, and I always go back to the typology thing, but like, you know, I'm never going to be an engineer, you know, I do not have that brain. Like, and even if I wanted to be, you know, music definitely followed me for sure. However, like designing something by painting it with no consequence can be a very powerful spiritual practice for me to do, and playful, you know, and like to make buildings in sand or something like that can really unlock parts of the brain that are really useful to you. So you should pursue things that are like compensatory, you know, that are like, you know, things that you're not strong in. You should pursue them in your own way, your own private sacred, spiritual, secret way, you know, whatever. But as far as like having where you invest your egoic kind of energy that you're going to like live your life by and gain strength from and derive a lot of your confidence and maybe even money from, you do have to be a bit practical about that, I think. But you'll be so surprised at like the fruits that bloom out of other things. And maybe that will end up being your career. You know, it happens all the time. You know, people start out one way and they start this little side practice thing, and then they end up being like so fulfilled and they end up doing that with their life, you know? Yeah. So James Hillman says that what's the purpose of life? It's like to fall in love with it. You know, sounds so simple and kind of like a greeting card or like a Hallmark card. If you're curious about the world, there's secrets everywhere. I think, you know, we're so alienated. I'm so alienated that the more you can be loving and curious, you could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's interesting. Kale was talking about this a little bit when he was in your seat there.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, you know, he had just started, like you also work in many mediums, and he was saying how he had just gotten into ceramics. And, you know, since then I ran into him the other day. He's like, I joined the studio. I made like, and it makes me so happy to see his ceramics on Instagram, and like that he's like, yeah, I'm going to do a book, and I'm going to do like, I think that's really cool to just try a bunch of, and we know so many people that you and I, that I'm thinking of right now that work across several mediums. And that I think that why else are we here than to have a real experience, you know, and try a bunch of things and connect with each other. And we're all going through our weird little, speaking of Kale, let's do his question. So he asks, how do you feel after you play a show? I'm sure it ranges for each, but what are the myriad of emotions that you tend to go through after performing?
I feel like shows are like, if you can connect to the audience or not, you know, like you might play really well, but if you're not connected, then you'll feel alienated and maybe sad or something. And if I'm sad about the way the show went, I'll like critique my voice or my playing or whatever. I'll definitely like beat myself up. If I'm happy about it, then, you know, I'm like, wow, this is the best. I'm so blessed with this way of life, blah, 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 you know? So, you know, I wish I had something more to say about that. I feel like that's really what it is. For me, it's just about connecting, and it's really hard to do that in big rooms, you know, like I was saying earlier. So I like to play smaller shows, you know?
You've mentioned dream work a lot, and I don't know if you remember this, but that was like the main thing that you had me kind of walk away with, was like, do you pay attention to your dreams? And you should, it might be useful. And I kind of thought about it ever since, and you've mentioned it a lot, even today.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how do you work with your dreams?
I didn't take them as seriously until I started getting into like Jungian stuff. But now I'm like, oh, that's like the divine speaking through us, you know, like I take it very seriously now, I guess. And I feel like it's really important to feel a dream, like not to just start to try to interpret it. Like I think the feeling of the images, it's important to play with that, you know, and go into your mind and imagine the images that you see, and interacting with them, asking them questions, touching it, feeling, and just going back to that feeling and sitting with that feeling. And if it's like uncomfortable, just being curious about it. Even if it's good, just being curious about it. Like what's going on here? Like what's at play? Because, you know, it's activating you, but it's unconscious. And so this is something that is like fun, I believe to be like fundamentally driving us, you know, these energies and our interactions with these images. And so I think it's important to like be curious and playful about it, and to feel them. And then the other side of it is like the kind of like integrating it into interpreting it, in some capacity. If you're able to like start to be able to do that with somebody, or, even amplifying the symbols through different myths or different things that you can like, you know, just explore it. Because as an artist, like the most powerful asset you have is your inner life, and finding out the way that you feel and you react to something. I just saw this like clip from Leonard Cohen he's like, I whittle away my writing until I dismiss all the slogans of like the collective. And I finally get down to something that feels urgent, that's something that only I would say, that has risk, that feels like something only I feel. And dreams are a doorway to that. So I think they're really important, but they're not just important for that. I think they're important for just like developing your life, you know?
Yeah. There's this Bowie quote I feel like I've said often, but similar. It's like pretty much the same sentiment, but he's like, anytime I started to second guess the work and do it, you've maybe heard this, like performing for an audience, like that's when the work suffered. But when he was really selfish about it, like that's when it was the best.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I saw that clip too. And yeah, I totally think it's true. It's like whenever you do something, because like when it's coming out of insecurity and you're like, oh, I've got to, and I was just saying this earlier, I've got to write like more upbeat stuff, or this thing's hip, I should do that or whatever. You're always behind and it's not authentic. Your soul's not in it, you know?
Yeah.
The real risk is trusting what is coming through. And obviously you integrate that into some kind of like tasteful structure that you've accumulated by being a part of the process and learning a craft, you know, and you integrate it with that. But when you're actually saying something and doing something that feels deeply personal, that's where the biggest risk is, for sure, to me, you know?
Well, you have further to fall. You know, I think if you're wearing a mask, or you're doing something that you think other people will like, if they don't like it, they're not really not liking you. But if you're showing yourself, then it hurts more, you know? I mean, that's intimacy, I guess, is like, and connecting, like honest connecting. But with the dream thing, I think, I don't know, that's just, it's really hitting me hard, because I've obviously like woken up from dreams and had like a good day because my dream was good in a wild way, or like alternatively, like, oh, I feel weird and I don't, but I honestly, Sam, like I didn't do my homework you gave me. Like like, I don't, I just kind of like pocket it down, and like and this is a pattern in me. Like I've had a therapist tell me, like, you think your feelings instead of feel your feelings. Like I'm
I'm like that too.
Like, need to.
Me too.
Yeah, I think maybe it's our ENF. I'm going to blame everything on that.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't seem like that to me. You seem very connected to like what has helped. What do I do? What has helped you with that?
I'm definitely not connected all the time at all. Like, especially right now, I feel very like cut off from myself. Like even, you know, this talking has like, you know, got the gears moving a bit. Like even when I first got here, I was like, kind of like, you know, I just think that whatever you do to interact with your inner world, you know, it can't feel like a chore or anything. It's got to be something that you find, I think, that like Leah gardens, just even thinking about like the way that people nurture plants, the way that they tend to them. And it's a time of day. It's a ritual. It's slow. It's peaceful. It's loving. It's like, you know, you're in the sun, you smell the water on the cement or the dirt or whatever, you know, all that stuff. It's like a very nice process. And I think that's probably what that is for her, you know?
Yeah.
And so I don't think everybody needs to do the same thing, but I do think it's definitely important to be curious about the dream world, just like it's important to be curious about this one. And it's, I think frankly, like it's getting harder to be curious about the world when there's so many ways of occupying you and stimulating you with cities and things to buy and eat and things to look at on your phone and blah, 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 you know. It's cultivating a sense of mystery, I think, does take work, and, you know, it's hard to do, you know. But once you start, I think you like get addicted to the feeling a little bit too. Well,
practically, do you write them down?
Oh yeah, when I'm in a good mode of it, yeah. I think it's really helpful to write them down. I find that when you write them down, you start remembering things about them that you thought you forgot. And I heard, and I've tried it, and it worked, that if you're really having a hard time, you could start to write it with your non-dominant hand. It can kind of unlock some of the feeling aspect in the body a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's really powerful to write things down. Also, journaling in general is good. Writing down memories is good. you just uncover things in there, it's interesting.
Have you done like a morning pages type practice?
I've done that for sure. I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like anyone that's done it, it's like, it's hard to write 3 pages in the beginning. And then by the end, you're like filling up 10 pages or whatever.
Yeah. And I find what's most interesting is like that I start to sort of self-soothe as I like go down the page. Like it starts off as like everything is terrible, but then I become solution oriented by like 2.5.
Totally. Yeah. You got to get it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's this is called the constipation hour.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll ask you these rapid fire ones in a second, but this is just silly from Leah. There's a voice text that I honestly lost, and I'm so sorry, but she did have and it's her birthday today, the day we're recording this.
I called her today.
Aw. Well, she told me a secret of yours. And maybe you can tell us briefly about this too.
Yeah.
I believe you have a secret roommate language where you'll say something like you'll scream down the...
It's not even funny. I just think it's like a funny joke to... like be like, hey, Katie, could you hand me that Runstone, please? And then you're like, what? And then I'll keep saying it with like a straight face. And then like you realize it's gibberish at a certain point and then you laugh, that's the joke. But anyway.
I don't know. I think that kind of stuff's really important.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like while it's over here,
Yeah.
There's enough hard stuff that we need a little bit of like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like to joke a lot. And like Leah is pretty prone to fear and anxiety. And so like, I'll usually, if I'm going to do it, I'll like call her with like a lot of urgency, like from upstairs. I'll be like, Leah, do you know where I left my harness at? And she's like, what, where? Like, she's like, she's so compassionate and I'm sadistically using it against her and exploiting it. Anyway. So I that's a funny joke. We need more humor.
Okay. Speaking of, what's something that's made you laugh really hard recently, or like what's something that comes to mind that made you laugh really hard?
My friends always make me laugh. Explaining the joke is going to not sound funny,
Yeah.
But I could try, I guess. But I have this friend, Nick, who's like, he's very disciplined. He's been like at the Zen monastery, like off and on for years. And he, like when COVID happened, he actually got stuck there. And so he was there for like almost a year.
Whoa.
And so he's very disciplined. He learns trades very quickly. And like, he's got a very peaceful, calm mind that he's able to like, do a lot with it. And it's really impressive to me. And so sometimes he's also like, if you're into astrology, he's like double Capricorn or something. So he's just like, I don't know, it's very serious. And, the other day in the studio, I'm not funny, but I thought it would be funny. I kept telling the engineer, like, sounds great except for the harmonica blaring. And could you turn down the harmonica? There was no harmonica, right? And like, we were laughing about that. I just kept talking about the harmonicas going wild. And Noel, who's my bandmate, who lives with Nick, was like talking to Nick about it as he was having like his morning gruel. Cause he's like a monk, he's like this gruel. And he's like, Sam kept like, cause I don't even think he understood why I was doing this stupid joke. He's like, Sam kept saying that the harmonica was too loud. And Nick was like, was there a harmonica? And he's like, no. And he was just like, that's stupid. That's just stupid. And then he walked away. And I was like, did he laugh at all? And he's like, no, he just didn't like it. And that made me laugh like all day long.
So your joke to your friends made you laugh when your friend super didn't laugh about it.
Yeah.
That's the best.
When my friend heard about it and thought it was dumb and spoke with spite about it, like really made me happy.
Oh man. Well, and now here it is to make others happy. What have you learned about yourself so far this year? If there's a theme.
I didn't think I cared that much what people thought about like me. But then like getting some like bad reviews or like getting some criticisms, things like that. I was like, oh no, I care. I definitely care. I got to work on that, So yeah, I learned that there's like a wound in me that like wants to be perfect, and it's like, that's fucked. I got to work on it. So that's been brought to the surface a lot this year.
So it turns out you're human, Sam.
I'm human and I definitely give a shit. Yeah. So
if you can put your finger on something, where do you think you get energy and what drains you?
Draining, it definitely is like trying to sell your perspective to somebody, you know, when you're like disconnected and you're like, you're trying to explain something to somebody or whatever, or like you feel like you want to be justified or like whatever, like holding on to that 100% destroys me. Also the drain of like, you know, the phone and all that, you know, and then what gives me energy is like connecting to people, connecting to nature, connecting to music, you know, all that obvious stuff, like jumping in the water, like whatever, you know, like, yeah, big time.
Yeah, same. God, I'm such a terrible debater, and there's nothing worse than like trying to get someone to understand things and or understand your perspective, and you're talking to a brick wall. It's awful. Yeah, and just not ever worth it. Since moving here, I feel like nature means more to me. Similarly with what you said of like where I grew up, even though it is beautiful actually there, like I almost maybe was too close to appreciate it. And here, anyway, I feel
I hear you 100%.
differently, but I was thinking like, oh, I've not really like, I don't know if nature really does it for me. But then I had this thought where I was like, well, people are nature. Like we're all made of the same stuff.
Yeah.
And people really do it for me.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my nature.
100%. Like, I think honestly, what made me really start to connect to it was when I fell in love with somebody. I like had all these associations with different styles of music and all that stuff with her. And I started to see this landscape that was very connected to her through this falling in love process. And that I started to see her in the things that I saw. And then eventually it just became like a way that I was interacting with myself. But like, yeah, we're not like solitary, you know. I think that we even like learn to see the world based on how our parents see it, you know. So sometimes it takes decades to reclaim that and rediscover it, like in our own way, on our own time, you know.
I want to go back to when you were a kid and thinking about like when you first picked up music. Like I meant to ask you earlier, what were you listening to when you were younger? And like, what are some of your early influences? And like, what do you like now? Can you listen to music while you're making music?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, my grandpa played music really loud in the house. I grew up, like the first house I grew up in was my grandparents' house. My mom was living there too. And I love listening to music loud. You know, I don't like to have it turned down, like unless it's like, you know, soft piano music or something. But he played the Eagles, the Beach Boys, Jim Croce, Fleetwood Mac, and there was like, Don McLean. And like Take It Easy by the Eagles is my favorite song when I was a little kid. I always wanted to hear that song when I was little. And then Operator, Jim Croce. Loved that. And then whoever did the Cats in the Cradle and the Silver Spoon song, I love that.
Do you still listen to that stuff now?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like, it definitely hits a spot for me. I think like the deeper relationships that I'll like go back to for music to like really drop down and like get in the writing mode. They're not those bands, but I love those bands too, you know.
What have you been listening to lately?
Self-Portrait by Bob Dylan, that record. I rediscovered it. I was somewhere and his version of Copper Kettle came on, like out of nowhere. And I was like, oh my God, this is so good. It just blew me away how good that is. And there's like these female backup vocals that come in at the same time that like someone's like strikes a vibraphone. It's a really interesting production choice. I really loved it. I'm always listening to Roy Harper. I'm always listening to Bert Jansch. I'm always listening to Leonard. And those are like my go-tos. Nick played me this song the other day called Yesterday When I Was Young. I forget who sings it, but it's a great song. I really liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll pause from my questions. This one's from Haley.
Oh.
She says, what are your thoughts about Henry Diltz?
That's so funny.
I figured there was
That is so funny. I was just on one the other day and I was like, well, you know,
anyone's going to say you're like a legend if you're taking pictures of Joni Mitchell, you know? Like I could take a picture of Joni Mitchell and it'd be iconic because she's just fucking iconic, you know? Same with like Dylan. It's like every little photo of Dylan is like classic because it's Dylan, you know? And so I was saying like, God, I'm going to get hate from the photographer followers you have, but like, are these pictures that good? You know? Like they're not really doing it for me. Then I looked into it more and I was like, oh no, he's got some like incredible shots, you know, like, you know, whatever. I'm just being a little dickhead. Like I was talking about it. Like I didn't even know, you know, I was just going off on some tangent, you know?
Well, I kind of think it's about what you, like when we were talking about collaboration and you were like, you got to be a good hang. Like he had to be to be able to be those people's friend. I've listened to like an interview with him a long time ago. And I remember him saying that he was like, well, you know, I just started taking photos of my neighbors and turns out my neighbors became famous. And it's like, well, some of that's right place at the right time, but, or maybe he's just being really humble, but I mean, you don't get, there's a certain bedside, you have to be a good hang to be able to make someone feel comfortable.
100%.
You know, and I don't know why I'm defending him, but
no, you should, because I'm an idiot. I didn't even know, like, first of all, I'm really not throwing shit. I was just talking out of my ass because I do that sometimes. And it's hilarious that she brought that up.
It's the perfect
yeah,
question.
You do have to be a good hang. And I bet he is an exceptional 11 out of 10 hang just by the look of him, you know, like 100%.
Well, the stories that he's got. I mean, Sam and I would like to hang out with you if you're listening. We're down.
I hope you're not listening because you sound like even more like an idiot than usual. But yeah, anyway.
I highly doubt that. But you know, who knows? Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I bet he's a great vibe.
But I see what you mean.
And I really did. I looked into the photos and I was like, oh no, I'm wrong. I backpedal here, you know. But
well, that's what we love about you. You can admit when you're wrong and you can have an opinion on something. But also I feel like I see what you're saying in the sense of like iconic people are iconic regardless of like the, you know, part of that's that.
Well, you know, there'd be no doubt in my mind, like we're not even talking about Henry anymore. Yeah. But if I had a closet full of, you know, Dylan pics that I'd taken, I'd probably be a famous photographer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That being said, if I spent my life taking pictures, I'd probably get pretty good at it too. And I think he probably got pretty damn good at it. And I didn't know, you know, I was just kind of being, you know, whatever, an idiot.
I figured there was like a reason why she asked you that. But what was funny is like, I listened to this interview with him a long time ago.
Yeah.
From, you know, like I bought this there, like the camera store in New York, B&H. They had like a podcast or something.
Yeah.
And I randomly listened to an interview with him from a long time ago. And the way he talks about how he bought his first camera, he was like, well, you know, I was on tour and he was in this small college town in Michigan and he went to this thrift store and his friend was like, I think I'll buy this camera. He's like, okay, me too. And then somebody else bought film, but it was where I'm from. That's where he bought the camera. So that like stuck in my brain for some reason. Yeah. But anyway, excellent question, Haley.
Evil question.
Okay. One more from, I don't even know if you know that this is one of my favorite people, Chris Stewart.
Oh yeah.
Stu asks, he has two good questions. One is about Ida. What is having Ida in your life like brought to you?
Oh, that's a great
Sam's
question.
dog.
I have a dog named Ida.
Who's great and loves playing the ball.
Oh my God. Yeah. I always wanted to get a puppy. I was just so curious about what it would be like. So I went to the shelter and I found a puppy and it actually, I was in a relationship at the time. We got in this big fight and I think there's like some psychological term for this, but I was like, oh, let's go get a dog to show I was committed or something. I don't know. But anyway, I fell in love with her instantly. And I was like, my approach was like, I'm going to trust this dog completely. You know, I'm never going to like force her to do things. I'm going to like let her choose it. You know what I mean? And I would like, so I wouldn't like call her more than once. I would just like leave her. I'd walk away from her and I'd have her follow me. So now like Ida follows me everywhere, you know, and she's like really attuned to me. She's really sensitive. I love her. She's so smart. She has like human eyes. And then I saw this guy, like when I was on tour, he was this old guy with like a gray beard down to the floor. And he was riding on a motorcycle and he had like 4 cattle dogs on his motorcycle, like sitting there, and he had like a sidecar on the motorcycle that like 3 of them would sit in, and then one would like sit on the back.
Whoa.
And he was just like a character, you know? But
I'm like afraid a little bit for the safety of the
I mean,
one dog.
He's not to be looked to for that. But anyway, he was talking to this woman on the street, and he's like, a dog is a herd animal. And he's like, you don't call a dog, you just go where you're going, and the dog's going to follow you. And I was like, that's what I did, you know? So I felt validated by that guy.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's really, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question from Chris. He says, what is his credo?
What's that mean?
Like a motto. Let's look it up and get a.
What is my credo?
Yeah.
I thought like he was testing me. Like what is his?
Oh, you know? No, that'd be cool though too.
Yeah.
Chris is the best. We'll find out his credo when he does the show.
I like that guy a lot.
He's the best.
Stay curious.
What are some of your creative practices or habits or routines? Like you kind of mentioned a couple that you are a little bit out of, and one thing I was going to ask is like, what do you do when you're in a rut to get out of it? But you were kind of saying that you've been feeling a bit off. So maybe it's now, maybe we hash it out and you leave here and it's just all.
That's a good idea. If I'm in a rut, the recipe for me is like exercise, eat right, don't do drugs and drink too much. Occasionally. Do it with intention, you know? Write the dreams down. Journal. I like to paint, so I think painting's good. Walks are good. Don't isolate, but don't spend all your time with people. Clean shit up. I mean, because if something's nagging at you, you know, take care of business, whatever you got to take care of.
That's really good. I'm going to just record. I'm going to give you a clip of that and then you can listen to it whenever you're you're like, okay, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was really great. It's funny. Like a credo is like a guide. Like, I feel like that question is like kind of also like that's your, and it's just generally excellent advice universally. Right. Like there aren't very many universal things. Like I think everything's so individual, but I feel like everything you said there is just like spot on. Like walking, generally very good for all of us. Getting a Goldilocks between isolating and being around people, like, and not being too rigid about any of this stuff. But I don't know, Sam, I think you're doing great. And, and you have so much wisdom that like, honestly, you've blown me away in this of like, this is genuine, but truly like you're really smart and wise in a way that like, I like vaguely knew but it was just really clear today.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the portion of this where I ask you to let out anything. Is there anything that you wish that I would have asked you that you never get to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
What do you think makes a good conversation?
There needs to be somebody who's a container, like who can contain like what you're doing for me right now, you know? And this is kind of more of an interview because I'm doing most of the talking, you know, like it's not like a conversing necessarily, but I think authentically listening, you know, whatever that means. And then you just have to be curious about what you're being told, you know, and I'm not against interrupting at all. Interrupting is fine for me, you know, like if someone's like supercharged and they're like, oh yeah, I got something to say, you know, if it's like this constant thing where no one's listening, it's bad. But I think someone needs to be kind of a container to hold it, to like keep it grounded in itself. I also think structure really helps conversations flourish, like a tarot reading, like a podcast, like a bar meetup, like a dinner thing where like there's some kind of direction to it. It just allows people to flow because it's like this principle of like, when there's just a little bit of control added, people are way more willing to share because it's almost like they're being asked to or something rather than they're just like volunteering it. You know what I mean? Or
to me, kind of what you're describing is a constraint, like a creative constraint can be good. You
yes,
know, like
totally.
Think of the haiku.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think keeping the thread going, you know, because there's so many tabs open when I have conversations and there's so many threads, and trying to remember can be hard because like that's what I'm doing in this context, but it takes me out of the moment of just being present and going in other directions. Because I'm like, we have to, but it hopefully makes you feel more free and makes it feel for you that you can, because you know that like I've got it, you know?
Totally.
Okay. Is there did I squeeze you for all your juice? Is there anything else that you want to?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that like, I feel like I need to talk about or anything like that. It's only if you had like questions really. Well,
I just want to know about so you were recording with Haley, but you were recording a music video. Do you have are you making new music? Do you have a new album in the works?
Yeah, I do. So I have a new record coming out in July, and this is where I'll do my promotion stick, I guess. I'm playing at July 14th and 15th at Gold Diggers.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm releasing that record, and I'm proud of it. I made it with Jonathan Wilson, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. He's just the best guy, and he's so talented. It's incredible. And yeah, I wrote those songs in that place of like nature that I was telling you about in Northern California, and I'm looking forward to moving on to the next chapter, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited to listen to it, and we'll be there. We'll be there.
Great.
Do you want to recommend anything? Like that's the other thing I usually say, like if there's a book or movie or their quote.
Yeah, totally. I'll just stick to like topic, I guess. Like if any of you are interested in tarot, my first book that I really fell in love with is called The Way of the Tarot. It's by Hodorowski, the movie director. And if you want somewhere to start with the Jungian stuff, I really think that anything by Marion Woodman is a good place to start. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. I think we did it. How do you feel?
I feel good. This is great.
Good. Well, okay, so we end letting out a deep breath together. You ready? Mm-hmm. Inhale. Let it out. Thank you, Sam.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This is really lovely. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. That means so much.
I'm talking to you with stars in my eyes as I'm walking along in the afternoon light. The way it is clear, wandering time.
Thank you for spending a couple hours with Sam and I. I am so grateful that you listened all the way to the end, and I'm so glad that Sam did the podcast, and follow everything he does. Listen to his music if you haven't already, and get ready for his new album that will be out in July, and go see his shows in July, as he mentioned. I'll probably be there. and one other thing, we briefly mentioned this car accident that he was in, and I'm going to link to a GoFundMe that I put in a newsletter recently and talked about it a little bit more. But if you can take a peek at that and help, that would be lovely. I'll link it in the show notes. And again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Sam for doing the show. If you want to know a little bit more about me, I write a newsletter, and actually I mentioned in this because I wrote one and mentioned Sam. So I'll actually link to that one if you want to read it from the archive, the one where I talk about the 2 tarot readings, one of them with Sam. And all of that will be in the show notes. If you need anything, let me know. If you want to go into the archive, if you somehow want more of the show after these many minutes that you've spent with Sam and I, maybe Cal Tyson. He is one of the people who submitted a question for Sam, and he also is a neighbor and recommended Sam to do the show. I always have the last person recommend the next person, so we'll see who Sam recommends that I interview next. And thank you again so much for listening. This show is produced by me and edited by the one and only, the best, one of the best people in the world, Brianna Bain, somebody else who I'm so happy ended up also in this neighborhood with me. The theme song is made and performed by Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs. Bye-bye.
Operator, or could you help me place this call? See the number on the matchbook is old.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Pretty much daily,
too.
but it
Thank
wasn't as like when other people run into each other daily because it was really odd times every day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always odd times. I feel like I always go to lunch when nobody's in the restaurant, you know, but I like it that way. And I felt like we were the same in that way, where we would be like little ghosts in like the back collage sitting area where no one was there, you know?
Which is the best.
Yeah.
More questions from others because now I feel like I'm there's a lot of pressure and weight on me from everyone in the neighborhood because you're so well loved, and I feel like I gotta do it this justice for everyone.
Oh, did Captain ask a question?
That's what I was gonna.
It's the same way with Nada. Like when you asked me, I was like, I'm gonna think of one, and then I couldn't think of a good question.
It's both of you. When I go into my retirement, he is gonna be my last guest.
Yeah.
So start thinking of your question now.
Totally. Yeah, I want to do him. I want to do him proud. I thought the questions would just be like, from Jake.
When we were on our stretch of running into each other at collage, and you were sitting at a different table, and I went from my table over to your table.
Wow.
And it was so cool.
Yeah.
But what I wrote about in that newsletter was, it was at the very beginning of this year, and oddly enough, like obviously I wasn't planning to do that with you that day, but
Right.
oddly enough, at the end of the year, I was at this party in Topanga, and I was super, super late because I was working here. And then, as you know, it's far. And anyway, and so when I got there, my friend whose party it was, he was like, oh, his partner, he's like, Lacey's inside sleeping. Like, you're so late. And he's like, all your friends, like everyone you were hoping to see here, like they all left. And I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, but you should get the last tarot reading. They had a tarot reading there. And unfortunately, it was not you. It was this very nice older gentleman named Whitefeather.
Oh, wow.
And he gave me this tarot reading. And the only thing I remember about it is that it was so bizarre, Sam. And yours, that was really early last year. That was like January of 2022. And this was December. Pretty much like uncannily the same.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Crazy.
It was really bizarre. And so then what I wrote about was like, oh man, I think I'm a little stagnant and I got to make some changes in my life. So my next impromptu tarot reading is different. But yeah, that's what it was about.
Yeah. How long have we talked anyway? Like 3 hours? 2 hours?
Sam.
Is this so long?
No. It is kind of long, but honestly not